well, Bernie, at what stage are you in the growth of MaTontine?
So we've spent the last, let's say, 2 years just trying to negotiate the very complex environment that we find ourselves in Francophone Africa, setting up the company, getting the right regulatory approvals, and that's taken us quite a while, much longer than we would have liked to have got there. But a lot of great things have happened during that process. We've formed great partnerships with CGAP, division of the World Bank, Suno Assurance, a regional insurance player here, Cofina Senegal, and we recently won a contract with Cofina Senegal and World Bank Savings Institution and the MasterCard Foundation to use our platform to lend to 50,000 customers. So that's where we are right now, and so we're in the process of trying to implement this project, which would really change the face of our company.
Very interesting. You speak about some challenges. What kind of challenges do you face as an entrepreneur in Africa, and especially compared to your previous experiences in the US or in Great Britain, and more particularly on this project, MaTontine?
So the challenges we face working in Africa are the same kind of challenges we face with MaTontine. So the answer is going to be the same. We have three main challenges. The first and the most important is regulation. As a fintech company, it's really difficult to operate in this environment in Africa, but especially in Francophone Africa. The second challenge we face is talent acquisition, getting the right level of talent. The best people are very few, and the demand for them is very high, and therefore they cost a lot of money. So for a small fintech company, that's very difficult to be able to compete for these people. And then the third challenge we face are partnerships. When you're a small fintech company, it's very difficult to partner with large companies. Mm-hmm. And as a fintech company, you can't, there's infrastructure that you cannot build yourself, right? So for example, we have a partnership with one of the mobile money providers. You cannot build your own mobile money network. So you have to partner with a mobile money provider. And those kind of partnerships are very, very difficult to get. So those are some of the real challenges we faced trying to get us to this stage as a company.
Regarding this matter of accompanying framework and regulatory question you just raised, can you illustrate with one specific example a fundamental difference there is between Francophone West African countries and English-speaking African countries?
I have a wonderful example, because this is one of my biggest challenges and one of my biggest problems that I complain the most about. So I
please complain.
so I definitely have a great example for you. The best example I think that illustrates this is the ability for a fintech company to get a license to operate. Now, one of the challenges that fintech companies have from a regulatory perspective is they touch money from the public.
Yeah.
Yes? Now, in Francophone Africa, for you to be allowed to touch money, you either have to be a bank or you have to be a microfinance institutions. Those are the only two types of licenses that are available to allow you to touch, to save, or to lend money.
And there is a third way in English-speaking countries?
Correct. Now, just to give you that example, is in Nigeria, for example, there's a very specific license, right, for fintechs.
Okay.
And this, or let me rephrase that, there's a very specific license for non-banking or non-financial institution companies that fintechs use, right? And the difference here is the mentality of the regulator. In Francophone Africa, in my opinion, the mentality of the regulator is to be guardians of the law, right? And they guard that law more than anything else that is important to them. Whereas I believe in Anglophone Africa, a lot of the regulators' thinking is facilitating the law to enable employment, to enable the development of a new industry. And that's why you would see in somewhere like Nigeria, when the fintech companies say to the regulator, we need licenses, we need an environment to enable us grow, they're a little bit more open to putting in place those kind of regulations to enable them grow. Whereas here in Francophone Africa, we find the regulators, even though they say that they listen to us, but they really haven't changed those rules from the rules they had decades ago that fit traditional banks and financial institutions.
Okay, very interesting. And in your opinion, is that because those regulators are not, they are not used to this kind of environment, they are not even aware that it does exist, or it's because the system is too, too heavy to change?
So I think it would not be right to say they're not aware. They go to all the same conferences that all the other regulators go. They have seen what happens in Kenya. They have seen what happens in Nigeria. Now, to be fair to the regulators here in this part of Francophone Africa, it's the same regulator for 8 countries. So it means it's not that easy to change the law because the law affects 8 different countries. So they have to be very, very careful on one hand. But I think, to answer your question specifically, there are 2 problems. One problem, I believe, is a mentality thing. I think the mentality, like I said before, of the regulator is to be more a guardian of the law than it is to be a facilitator of the law, to enable the law be flexible enough to solve complex problems. But I think another problem that the regulators have is I do not believe they are innovative or open-minded enough to be able to adopt some of the interesting solutions out there. A very specific example I can give you around that is there is this idea of a sandbox. And this is not a new idea. The sandbox has been used in the UK, it's been used in the Philippines, and Sierra Leone has just even done their own sandbox. And what a sandbox does is it enables the regulator to say, I'm going to create a safe space where we're going to put in there flexible regulation to test how this is going to affect these new industries, these new companies. And then we will look at...
With a very limited number of companies.
Exactly, with a very limited number of companies. And then we can monitor this. And then if it works, after 3 years or 4 years, then we turn it into real regulations. But what that does is it gives you, as the regulator, and you as an industry, an opportunity for you to grow, to expand the industry. And that is one thing that when everybody asks me, I say, this is a very simple solution to do because there's little risk. Because like you say, the number of companies are limited and you can say very specifically how you want these companies to play in this sandbox. And then you can monitor them, study them, and before you make any really long-lasting regulations in this industry.